Welcome back for part 2 of our discussion with Janice Carnevale of Bellwether Events.
Your guests are coming from the burbs. The hotel is in the burbs, but the property is not. And your guests, yes, could they get a Lyft or an Uber from the burbs? They sure could, but they're not going to get one back.
So, Janice, before we go on with guest experience, I want to kind of circle back to, we had mentioned catering before, but we didn't totally deep dive into it. We mentioned how they're going to need the generators and such. And if anyone's listened to the Chef Dante episode, he really gives a super deep dive in the chef's experience. But from your perspective as a planner, when we're looking to do a home wedding or at a estate or something, what do we need to be considering with our catering as well as the food options that we are offering our guests?
Right. So, I love talking about this. I came from a catering background. It's my clients care about food. My ideal clients, my best clients, my favorite clients, they really, really care about food. So we have a lot of fun
And the
planning
guests
their
do
menus.
too.
Yes, it was. Who was just on? I'm going to say her name wrong. Shandi?
Oh, Shandai?
Shandai.
Yeah.
Shandai really made me laugh because she said you can just feed them into happiness. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But she basically said you can just feed your guests into happiness and they won't care about anything else. And the truer words were never spoken. So catering, first of all, where are they going to be? Sometimes I can put them in a garage, and that's very nice because there's lighting and it's secure and covered. Occasionally for a very small event, I can put catering in the kitchen in the house, but I don't love doing that. Most times,
Is it because the way of trying to get it back and forth?
well, I just don't want people in the house, and that is something we can talk about. But I don't want guests in the house. I don't want vendors in the house. Like, let's just lock the doors and know that there's no mess being made. There's nothing being broken. There's nothing disappearing.
Janice, you are speaking to my heart right now because I'm a pretty private person when it comes to my home. So I am an invitee only, and it's a very rare occasion. So I love hearing this.
Well, I had one of my actually, it might have been my first home wedding. They had not moved into the house yet. The hardscaping and the driveway was being installed 2 days before the wedding.
Ooh.
I was terrified. But it was this brand new new build house. The parents spent the whole night giving tours. It was so sad. I was like, you are at their son's wedding and you're asking them to give you a tour of what is basically an empty house, by the way. I was aghast at people. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Like I said earlier, or, last time, people are terrible. So where are they going to set up? They probably need 30 by 30 at least amount of space. If they're going to be in a tent, the tent needs to have light. It needs to have a fan. It needs to have a floor because catering equipment has wheels. Not all of it, but important catering equipment has wheels. So they need to be on a solid surface. They cannot be wheeling that stuff around on the grass. And they need to be close by. You don't want your food to get cold or to get rained on because they have to walk 50 yards from wherever they were set up to your reception.
Oh God, if they trip along the way.
Yeah.
And there goes that whole dish.
Yeah. And if it is a longer walk, and maybe the weather is fine, and that's great. But if it's a longer walk, you're going to spend more in labor because they're going to hire more servers to come and make that walk from that catering tent to the reception tent. So the closer you can get everything together, the easier there will be a slight easing on the budget.
When it comes to a home wedding, do you have a preference between plated buffet, family style, or stations?
I'm going to get in trouble here. You really just opened a can of worms, Leah. I don't believe in station style. Station style, I don't believe in it unless you do 50% seating. If you do you think it fucks
up the flow?
I think that if you have full seating and you have stations, what people do is they take their plate and they go to one station, and then they go to the next station, and then they go to the third station, and then they go back to their seat. It's a buffet. but it's completely the wild, wild west because it's, quote, stations. And then it just becomes long lines, and it's the chaos meal style, in my opinion. But there is a way to do it. I'm sorry, this is a huge tangent.
No, bring it.
But
I want to know.
You have to open up the dance floor immediately, and it has to crush. You have to get 50% of your guests onto the dance floor dancing. I don't care how you do it. I don't care, Mr. Brightside, John Bon Jovi, don't care. But you have to get like half of your guests onto the dance floor and keep them there for like a solid 20 minutes while the rest of your guests hit those stations. You need to have 50% seating. It can be, and it should be a mix. It should be lounges. It should be high tops with stools. It should be low tops of varying sizes. It should not be a sea of 5-foot rounds with banquet chairs. And you need to have small plates. It needs like 6 inches maximum, I think, maybe 7.
And no caterpillar tables either.
Oh God.
I should have put that in my fucking bucket for you. I didn't think about it. So right now, caterpillar tables, are they on your fucking bucket?
They are. Yeah, fuck it. right in the bucket. Right in the bucket. As a side note, I have a friend where we just like send each other the worst things we see in Instagram DM. We're like, what? Like this is terrible. Caterpillar tables are not for me. And they are for some people, and that is fine. If you haven't noticed, I'm a logistics and efficiency girl, and that is not what those tables are. So
the stations.
Yeah, sorry. Back to what you had asked me about. I'm fine with a plated meal. I'm fine with a buffet. I'm fine with family style. Really, all those, I don't really see any of them being better or worse than the other for a home wedding. If you're limited in space in the catering tent, a buffet might be better because they don't need the space to plate up all the plates. And if you're limited in the dinner tent, then you could possibly put the buffet on the dance floor and then strike it before you open up the dance floor. I don't have, to each their own. To each their own.
Well, just like we can't control the weather, we can't control bugs either. So how do we handle the bug situation, especially if you're getting a July wedding in the, summer and it rained the day before and you've all the food out and sticky cocktails.
Yeah. So first of all, 2021 was cicadas out here. So that was fun.
Yes, that's right.
But thankfully my client just embraced it. And we have some really funny pictures of them actually holding cicadas. They were mostly gone by that wedding. But, you just have to embrace that kind of thing, I think, and not let it steal your joy. So if you can set up fans, the fans will help keep the bugs away, right? So that's very useful in the reception tent. That's a little bit trickier in the ceremony and in the cocktail hour. You could give out hand fans, either the foldable kind or like a battery powered hand fan. You can have those available to your guests. I do like to have amenity stations both when the guests arrive and scattered throughout the event. And that might include a water, like a water disbursement, a water dispenser. It might also have sunscreen and bug spray.
Like some off spray.
Yeah. Just letting
what about
people.
Bees in the fall, late summer, early fall, you get bees and.
Yeah. I used to carry an EpiPen and it expired and I haven't. I used to carry it for other people, for guests at weddings, and it expired and I haven't replaced it. So you were just reminding me to go get the EpiPen. It's not really been a problem so far to my experience, thankfully. But I think for the most part, you need to. Part of this goes back to guest communication, right? And really explaining what they are going to be experiencing on the wedding day. And that is giving, Jamie from Cotton and Bow really hit this nail on the head the other day, or on the recent podcast that she was on with you. And you really have to use your save the dates, your wedding website, your invitations, and your welcome note, if you have one, to give direct and subliminal cues to your guests. When I have home weddings, we are explicit on the website about how much guests will be walking, where they will be walking on. We strongly recommend flats or wedges. Bring a pashmina for nighttime. Be prepared to be in the sun for the ceremony. Really being very clear about those expectations. And I think if like my best friend has a bee allergy and her kids have bee allergies too. And so I would think of that and I would make sure that I had, sent her a quick email if I was inviting her to my outdoor wedding. Be prepared to be outside in nature.
Well, with that, I love this point, and Jamie did give so many great tips when it came to this. How can we be more explicit with dress code too? Because someone might see backyard wedding or home wedding and just assume they can show up more casually. And if it's not a casual wedding, or maybe it is, but how can we best put on there? Do you just say outdoor cocktail or come in your...
So this is something I talk about with almost every single client, regardless of where their wedding is. And if the instructions are not black tie optional, or formal, your guests don't know what it means. And they will Google it. What did you just say? Summer casual?
Like summer casual or something like that. But that could mean just like an Old Navy slip dress that looks like you just wear it on the boardwalk, wherever.
Yeah. And if that is the dress code you want, that is totally fine. Yeah, but your guests do not know what summer casual means. And if you don't explicitly tell them, they will call you or email you or text you and ask you. And then you're fielding all those calls. So I really recommend, if it's not super clear, to be very explicit. And whether that's a summery maxi dress, khakis and a blazer, but really, if you just really want to be so clear, just make a design board and put it on your website and show them literal examples of humans wearing...
Are you for this? 'Cause I'm getting mixed reviews from professionals. Some people love it and recommend it, and some people are just like, oh my God, really? This is what we're doing?
I am not necessarily saying that there should be a color dress code, or like, I think you spoke to somebody who had like the exact linen suit that all the men were supposed to buy.
Yeah, I told the story about
and that's banana extra. Pants. That's banana pants to me. But if you want a dress code, again, that is not black tie optional, formal. Those are literally the only three that everyone can tell you exactly what it means, and we will all agree on it. So if you want to use some other wording, summer cocktail, summer casual, beach, whatever, people don't know what that means. So you have to explain it to them. And if the words that you use to explain it is still not breaking through, is still getting you questions about what that dress code means, then you need to do more. You need to do a visual representation. Do I think every wedding needs to have a design board? I do not. But if you are trying to communicate, we will be outside in the sun for a ceremony. You will be walking a quarter of a mile up a hill to get to my ceremony location. The sun will go down and it will then be 70, 68 degrees. You're going to want a jean jacket or a pashmina. People just want the information. That's just what they want. They want to be told. Most people, many people want to be told what to do. They want to look like they fit in. They want to look like they are in the right place and that they are not underdressed or overdressed for your event.
And you can give more details on your wedding website, but how often do you think people truly do look at the wedding website?
Yeah, I'd love to have data on that. That would be fun. You know what?
I haven't heard anything.
Can the Knot do a report on how often, and can I get like a visitors, a clicks, a time per page? Can I get that from the Knot and from Zola, please? I would really, really like that. If here's what I would say. If you put it out there, you've done your job. If you've put that information, if you've made it available to them, you've done your job. And you cannot, as I say all the time, these people are adults. And at a certain point, we have held their hand and led the horse to water as best we can.
But you can't make them drink it.
So can I give you a little story about dress code for a wedding?
Please, because I love the dress code conversation.
I just sort of alluded to it, but we had a wedding where the walk from the valet and bus drop off to the ceremony was literally a quarter mile up a hill. And we told them on multiple pages on the website, this was the most detailed wedding website I'd ever done. And we told them on multiple locations, we do not recommend heels. But we knew that some people were either not going to read it or not going to care. So when they got out of their car or they got off the bus, we collected their gift, because you want to collect gifts right away. You want to get stuff out of their hands before you put stuff into their hands. So we collected their gifts. We had a water and lemonade station. We had the sunscreen and the bug spray set up for them to do right there. We gave out parasols to people who wanted the parasols. But my favorite part of this kind of guest hospitality station was the shoe valet. Women who had worn inappropriate shoes for the walk. I'm not saying an inappropriate shoe in general, but an inappropriate shoe for the walk. We had rescue flats, which is one of my favorite things. Look, I'm not the dollar Old Navy flip-flops are fine. Everyone loves them and they do their job. The rescue flat is just a little bit more elevated and it looks a little bit nicer in the photos later in the night when you get those dancing photos. So women dropped off their, and the rescue flats come with a bag to put your heels in.
Oh,
so they
that's so
put their
nice.
heels in they put their heels in the bag. They put them in the valet. They took the rescue flats. They walked up the hill. Now, before anyone gets angry, we also had wagons and golf carts if people did not want to walk. We did not force them to walk the quarter mile up the hill.
Sorry, Grandpa, get up there.
Exactly. Exactly. This was, and we did have grandparents at that wedding. We were lucky enough. And then we moved the valet to the dinner tent. We moved the whole setup to the dinner tent. So after they'd walked up the hill, sat at the ceremony, walked back down the hill, mixed and mingled at cocktail hour, then if they wanted, when they enter the reception tent, which had flooring, they could put their fancy shoes back on and put them and wear them for the rest of the night. And people lost their minds over this. They just thought it was the greatest thing. So big fan of the shoe valet.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. And the rescue shoe. Because, yeah, the flip-flops are great, but that does sound like a nicer option. Especially for people that maybe don't want to show their feet.
Yes, there is that. You might not, the pedicure might not be totally, up to snuff that week, and that's okay. And it has the shoe bag that I mentioned, and it comes with a bow, like a ribbon that you could use to tie your hair back if you wanted to.
That's awesome. All right, take note. With the guest comfort and flow, I love that you have like the valet and all these other options. What are other ways with a home wedding that we can kind of have a better flow and comfort? And we need to talk about ADA accessibility also, because I think that gets overlooked a lot when wedding planning.
You just want to put yourself in your guest's shoes and say, do I want to make this walk? Do I need a bus for this leg of the trip? Do I have the budget to put in a leveled floor so that my guests are not tipping out of their chairs, at dinner? Is this really the best location for the ceremony? If you have guests in a wheelchair or otherwise need accommodations, then you really need to think about whether the home wedding is right for you or not. It can be very challenging to move folks around a property that is not equipped with ramps or is spread out really far across many acres. If it's, some people can be helped into a golf cart and they can be moved around, and that works out. But some folks are not in that situation, and it's not quite as easy to move them around, and it might be better to consider a building that is actually up to ADA code because they are required to be, by the government.
Well, and that
Um,
includes children too, because you have to consider we think about elderly, but if families are there, you have these younger children. Well, if they're your flower girl or ring bearer, or just you're allowing children at your wedding, you have to consider that too, because at a certain point they're going to throw a tantrum and not want to walk up that hill.
you know, Kids are a great photo op most of the time. But what are they going to do afterwards? Where are they going to go once they have lost interest in your wedding? Is there a babysitter on site? Is there maybe these are the guests that go into the home. Maybe there's a rec room in the basement. They can watch videos. You can order pizza for them. I do think that it's you can accommodate children with forethought and with planning. Another thing that gets overlooked a lot is nursing mothers. Do you have a place that is not a bathroom necessarily for a nursing mother to go and either nurse or pump? That's something that I'm coming across a lot as brides and grooms get a little bit older and their friend group is a little bit older and maybe they're not doing things in the quote traditional way of home marriage, home, then baby. They may be doing things in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that it really gets overlooked if you have a spot for nursing mothers and, is it's not just a bathroom stall because I don't want to do that to anybody.
No, no, and yeah, something again I never would have considered either, and that's a great point because especially since the trailers, while they're a good size compared to maybe like the typical football tailgate porta potty you might be accustomed to, it's still not a lot of space for someone to pump or change a diaper. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, something to definitely
Yeah.
consider.
Diaper changing is definitely something that is is overlooked in a lot of restroom planning. Now that I
Hmm.
think about it, now that you mention it, I don't have children, so I've never had to change a baby at a changing table in a public bathroom. But now that you mention it, it's not something that I can ever recall seeing
Hmm.
in the restroom trailers. I'm sure that it exists, but it's not something that I can even recall seeing before. So yeah, you definitely want to consider those things. And again, this
Something
it
to
all
talk to the
comes
trailer guys about.
right, right. The men who designed the trailers.
Yeah.
All of this just comes back to anticipating your guests' needs and taking care of them at the highest level that you possibly can, because that's what you're trying to do when you host people in your home.
So, what about overnight accommodations and making sure that they're safe and if they're coming in from out of town or if they're at your house and they get lit partying all night, like what do we do with them? Where are they going to
Yep,
go?
yep. Yeah, a few things here. So oftentimes when you are out in the country, there are not a lot of hotel options available. And if that is the case, you really need to plan far, far in advance and make recommendations to your friend groups and to your kind of family bubbles about like particular Airbnbs or particular maybe there is a B&B that you could rent out, that has like 12 rooms or what have you. But it's highly likely that a major hotel might be far away, and you have to consider that with transporting them via bus out to your property to keep everybody safe. Because, like you said, most people do drink at a wedding, and most people are not safe to drive home after a wedding. And you factor in it's a place they've never been before, probably. It's dark out. It might be like a smaller, windier road with fewer streetlights. And it's really, can be a recipe for disaster. So you want to anticipate that. I did have a situation where the clients felt that they could rely on rideshare at the end of the night. And I said to them, I really don't think that that's the case because we are so far out. Yes, your guests are coming from the burbs. The hotel is in the burbs, but the property is not. And your guests, yes, could they get a Lyft or an Uber from the burbs? They sure could, but they're not going to get one back. It's not going to happen. So we actually planned on having a dedicated minibus for those folks only for the ride back. And so I think we had 3 minibuses there at the end of the night, and we had 2 hotels. and I was able to send one minibus to one hotel, the second minibus to the second hotel, and the third minibus I was able to put drunk guests on who just needed to go to an Airbnb, or maybe it was even their home. And like, I never felt more secure about like getting these intoxicated people home safely than I had in that scenario. And it takes,
That's a great idea.
because you're not going to get, even I have seen in a more densely populated area, when you have 10, 15 couples all calling Uber at the end of the night, that turns into surge. And then they don't leave, which, like, you don't care that they're not leaving as the couple, but all of your vendors care that they're not leaving because they're trying to load out. They might be on a time frame that they have to get out of that venue by. This is not home related, but like, it's not safe for your guests to be in the middle of loadout. That is the sausage being unmade, and it is quick and dirty, and like, it's not safe for people to just be wandering around, you know?
Hey, lovelies, it's Leah from Bridechilla. As you all know, weddings are a time of love, joy, and a lot of potential stress, not gonna lie. From the dream ring to the perfect dress, there's so much to think about. That's why I'm excited to share about Brightco. They offer both jewelry and wedding insurance to protect your precious moments. Imagine your dream ring getting lost or damaged, or your wedding being disrupted by unexpected circumstances. Brightco has you covered. With their affordable plans, you can relax knowing your investments are safe. Visit bright.co/Bridechilla to learn more and get a quote today. That's brite.co/Bridechilla. Your precious moments deserve modern protection. Brightco is insurance you can trust. I'm curious, do you know if with ride shares, if they're still doing this? In my past life, when I had my wedding, we did a thing with Lyft where they had a QR code that you could offer guests, and there was like a percentage off or something like that. Is that still being offered, that couples can do something with Lyft or Uber or whomever and have a QR code set up in advance in place?
Yes, I have seen that still happening. You can set it up to, usually it's like a fixed dollar amount, like $25 off your ride, or 20 or 15, whatever you decide it's going to be. I have seen that. But, you know, and I have seen folks do that in lieu of a bus. And I do understand that, like, everyone has a different budget and everyone is just trying to make it all work. I really do appreciate that position. But it does lead to, the scenario I just mentioned, where 10, 20 couples are all in one place. They're all trying to get a ride to another place, and it's causing surge. And folks are really, having to wait around for a good bit of time to get their car to leave.
And if you're at home in a busier city where there might be other things going on, like sporting events or concerts or something, then you might have to deal with high traffic with that as well.
Yeah, and it's important to know what other large events are happening on your wedding weekend, because they might really impact traffic as well.
Yeah, and your hotel costs. Because we talked about holiday weddings, right? Like, yeah, it sounds great in theory and people can have longer weekends and such, but it is more expensive for hotels and other accommodations.
Yeah.
So things to factor in. Do real dishes versus disposable, by the way, make a difference when it comes to a home wedding?
I think that if that's a place where you want to try and cut costs, I think that that's fine. I would just be mindful of any potential wind. I think we kind of talked about it before, but wind can really disrupt all paper products: menu cards, seating charts, place cards, escort cards, ceremony programs that you lovingly placed on each chair. And also, things like that can be blown away, unfortunately. I am a huge snob and I want my wine in a glass, but it's fine.
No red solo cup weddings for you, huh?
I mean, if it's, if it's just a keg, like, sure, put it in a solo cup. I don't care. I'm not that bad. But like, if you're pouring me a decent bottle of rosé, put it in a glass.
Yeah,
babe.
Anything else when it comes to guests or logistics before we get into the fuck it bucket and the myths and misconceptions?
I think something I hear a lot from folks is, oh, we've checked every farmer's almanac for 20 years and it's not going to rain on our wedding day. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. And also, it's getting hotter, it's staying hotter longer, rains are more
Mm-hmm.
intense. It's you cannot take the weather for granted unless you are in Palm Springs where it rains 12 days a year. Fine. If that's fine. Like I will grant Palm Springs and San Diego their perfect weather and their perfect West Coast
Why do I
light.
feel like you might just be jinxing that?
I have been in Palm Springs on one of the 12 days where it rained. I was not a happy camper. I can only imagine what couples might think out there. But you really do need to be prepared for inclement weather. And some tent companies, if you your regular tent from them, they will offer you an inclement weather plan. And this is a
Hmm.
situation where you can make your decision a lot closer in, and they don't bill you. Like, you'll have to pay a deposit, but you don't have to. Most of your vendors are going to collect all of their payments 30 days in advance. The inclement weather option will allow you to coast on the deposit only until you get much, much closer to the wedding day and you have a much better sense of what the forecast is. So you really want to
Hmm.
take advantage of that, because it's a really great option to have, to set aside all those side walls, extra flooring, extra tents, marquee tents that connect, two tents to each other. It's a really good opportunity to set aside those things, because I really don't care what the farmer's almanac says. It could be bad weather, and we don't know, and we won't know until much closer in.
That's a bummer. I always believed the Farmer's Almanac was correct. I would,
Yeah.
it's funny you say that. I used to look at the beginning of the year of what it would say. And I think this is the first time I didn't look at Farmer's Almanac to see what the weather was going to be. I think I figured at this point
Oh,
everything's just going to be whatever the hell it is because nothing's predictable anymore.
yeah. Yeah. And I want to go back to, again, I know that I prefaced um, our first segment with, I'm talking about luxury weddings and I'm talking about American tented weddings at home. And that's what, Bellwether Events specializes in. But you can do this in an affordable way. And it doesn't have to be six figures. It doesn't have to be $1,000 a guest. But I would still strongly recommend that you make sure that your guests are safe, your guests are well taken care of, and that they're not going to be uncomfortable either due to heat or due to rain. I think that needs to be kind of, where the priorities lie when you're trying to do this on more of like a $200 to $400 per person budget. And I know that they are out there, and I know that people do
Mhm.
them, and it is a community building event. You've got friends, you've got family who are helping you, ice down beer and cook lasagna and hang up balloons, and all of that is totally fine. And
Yes.
I look, I did not spend six figures on my wedding. Larry and I spent like 35K or something like that on our wedding many, many years ago. So I do not begrudge anyone what their budget is, and I judge, no judgment. I hear you, and I do not judge. Um, but when you see the things on Instagram or on Pinterest, those are not the affordable home weddings typically. So I just want
Well,
you
I
to keep
think
that
of
keep that in
are
mind.
you a Selling Sunset fan?
My husband watches that show. I
So
don't.
in season two, I think it was season one or season two, Mary and Romaine got married and they ended up getting married in a home. And it was a home she was selling because she sold the wedding. She sold the home the day of her wedding, basically. Like the guy came to look at it and she didn't tell him like it was her wedding day. And so she's getting ready in hair and makeup and like walk through. It's a gorgeous home wedding. She did it on the smaller scale, like 100 people, maybe smaller scale for LA, right? Um, but it was gorgeous, but when you see something like that, you don't realize the cost that's actually involved in it?
Yeah, I think because it's hidden
Hmm.
costs, not because it's the infrastructure, it's the lighting, it's the bathrooms, it's the power, it's you put a caterer in a catering tent they need to have water. They need to have water
Yeah.
to make your coffee, but they also need to be able to wash their hands. You can rent a hand washing station, I have learned, that, that gives you the peace of mind that your food is being prepared, in a correct way. And it's hidden expenses, hidden not from couples on purpose, because I know that this industry gets a reputation for being opaque, and I do not
Yeah.
believe that we are opaque on purpose. Um, but hidden from your guests' eyes, the expenses of your buses, of your valet, of, you know, oh, your bathroom doesn't fit on your property. We are going to rent your neighbor's driveway and pay your neighbor to put the bathroom trailer on the neighbor's driveway. Like, these are the things that happen, and it's not hidden to the hidden expenses to the couple. It's hidden expenses to the guests.
Thank you for
Yeah,
bringing up
I
sanitation. As a germaphobe, it's super important to me.
well, like, that's why when I say a nice porta potty for the guys who are doing your installation setup, that means one that flushes and has a hand washing station, because we
Hmm.
want to, as we've learned over the last 5 years, we want to slow down the spread of germs when we can.
So, one last point before we get to myths and misconceptions is I love that you said that you can still do this affordably. I know we've talked more about like the moderate to luxury end of things, but what would be your top, like maybe 3 to 5 ways to have still an elevated wedding and have it feel more special, but still keep it on the lower end of costs?
That's a great question. And I do think it's going to vary from couple to couple based on what their priorities are. If it's really important to you to hire the $16,000 photographer because you want those incredible images to look at for the rest of your life, and that means you're going to skip a DJ or skip flowers or skip a coordinator, and do, only digital invitations, like, that's fine. Um, I don't, it's very it's very treacherous in this industry to suggest, wiping out one entire vendor category when
Right.
you're suggesting how to save costs. So I'm going to spin that on its head and just say, figure out what's important to you. If it's important to you that the food be exemplary, then that's where you should splurge. If it's important to you that you can be outside no matter what, then you need to get a tent. If it's important to you that everyone have a seat for the ceremony, then you're going to invest in the rentals. If it's important to you that you don't want to clean up after the party, then you're going to hire, the party hands to help you with that after the fact. So I think it's really more about figuring out what is truly most important to you, and then splurging on that, and then figuring out how to bootstrap the rest of it. With drinks and coolers, with pans of lasagna, whatever it is, with no flowers. I do not believe in, like, doing only candles is not cheaper. Doing only greenery is not cheaper. It is still a thing you have to do. Just
Yeah.
axe the whole thing if it's not important to you. Don't do it halfway.
Great point. Great tip. So, myths, misconceptions. We already touched upon this, but just discuss having a home wedding is not always cheaper. I just want to kind of drive that home because a lot of people think even doing it the most quote unquote cheapest way, most affordable way, it still can add up. So,
I do think that if you're planning a luxury at home wedding, it's going to be $1,000 per guest or more. It's going to be probably 25% more overall than if you went to a venue or you went to a hotel. I think that the biggest reality check for you will be to bring out that tent company and have them do a site survey and have them give you a bid for your flooring, for your lighting, for the tents that you will need. And that will really, I think, open your eyes. Does that invoice come to $15,000, or does that invoice come to $40,000? Because in DC, $40,000 can get you pretty much anything, and that place is air conditioned and your tent is not.
how about that you can just DIY everything?
You can, if you want to be very busy and have lots to do in the immediate days and hours leading up to your wedding. You can. I'm not going to tell anyone that they can't because I believe in them.
Do you
But
think that they cost just as much, if not more?
if you looked at your hourly rate, I know what I make hourly. Leah, you know what you know what your income is. You can do the math. Like everyone knows what their hourly rate is, either by the job that they work or just what they intrinsically value themselves at. And that is what you are sacrificing by not outsourcing. You are sacrificing your time, and your time does have value. And I do think we talked about this briefly on Instagram, I think, like setting boundaries, not letting wedding planning overtake your
Yes.
life. And if you are bootstrapping everything or almost everything, it's going to be hard to not let that overtake your life, let that overtake your relationships. And I think that that is something to be cautious of.
Yeah, we were saying, I retorted to something you said. I forgot what you said. And I was like, yeah. And also with boundaries, everyone seems to think it's their wedding when it's your own. What, do you remember what you said?
It was my 5 things to do once you get engaged. And the fifth one was set boundaries around when you will and won't wedding plan, like with your partner, and kind of like being, have a date night still and don't let this become your whole personality. And I think that that resonated with a lot of people. I got a lot of comments about that little tip.
Yeah. And I'm glad we're driving it home again because it is important to set that boundary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's something we didn't talk about earlier, but this is part of the myths and misconceptions is we'll just have a friend bartend and, whatever. There's a fine line, like if you're just having a cooler, like a normal backyard party, and if you're having a larger scale home wedding,
So
right?
yes. First of all, let's talk about the liability of your friend bartending and how that's putting yourself at risk, and putting your friend at risk, asking them to do that favor for you. So I think that if you're going to serve alcohol and those people are going to leave your house one way or the other afterwards, there is a difference between like a 6-year-old's birthday party where all the parents are like that age and they have a couple of beers, and you are the first. I phrased that wrong. There is a difference between a bunch of couples who already all have children and don't go so hard, and if you are the first of your friend group to get married and everyone is doing Jaeger shots. And
Yeah.
you need to be mindful of that, and you need to accept the responsibility of serving alcohol in your home to your friends and family. And I think part of that responsibility acceptance is, having event insurance, making sure that it has, liability coverage, and also hiring a professional bartender. Look, do I like cutting people off at weddings? I sure don't. It is my least favorite thing to do. But like, if this person can't, like, it is, I don't even like sue me, take me for the $5 I'm worth. If that person left and got in a car or even just walking down the street and fell and hurt themselves, like I would be very, very upset about that for a very long time, and it would weigh on me
Yeah.
for a very long time. And I just don't want that to be the situation. So, we there there are having a professional bartender do their professional job is not a buzzkill. It is the adult thing to do.
And it keeps the underagers being served too. I mean, I know it's kind of like a rite of passage for some people. You have your first
Yeah.
CC, your first Canadian
Yeah.
club and soda, but like, it's a liability if you're hosting it.
Yeah.
The old
Yeah.
school drink. Okay, so anything else with myths and misconceptions before we get to the fuck it bucket?
Just because you don't have a home where you could host a home wedding doesn't mean that you cannot bring this level of hospitality and guest care to wherever you do end up booking for your wedding. And I do think that this is, I don't know about you, Leah, but I am hearing more and more. We want it to be like a dinner party. We want it to be so warm and just
More intimate.
comfortable, intimate. Yes, and that's partially guest size, right? But I think it's a vibe. It is a vibe that
Yeah.
that people are trying to create, and I think it does go back to the idea of a home wedding, like really creating a space that evokes warmth, that evokes hospitality, that evokes community, nurturing each other. And regardless of your venue, like you can create that anywhere. So if after listening to all these lovely stories I've told, you no longer think a home wedding is for you, I still think you can accomplish, that sentiment at a different venue.
Yeah, I agree. And then you don't have to do the dishes and clean up after.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, it's time for the fuck it bucket. And I know you'll be raw and honest with me, which I appreciate. All right, you ready?
I'm so ready.
Neon signs.
I'm fine. It's fine.
Large floral bouquets.
I'm not against it if it's loose and textural in design.
Using a Spotify instead of a DJ.
If you don't care if people do or don't dance, then it's fine.
Sparkler or bubble exits.
Hell no. Fuck it, buck it. I can't. I can't anymore. I'm sorry. Like, I am, people know this. It is not a secret how anti sparkler send offs I am. So this will be no surprise to anybody who knows me.
Champagne towers.
All day.
Yeah.
Your girl loves some wine in a glass.
Well, then custom cocktails was the next one.
Oh yeah. I love it. Like, it gives people something to talk about at the cocktail hour. Yeah.
The couple absolutely. Exchanging gifts before the wedding.
It kind of feels like more pressure and like one more thing on your to-do list. So I'm going to say in the bucket.
Backyard games like Jenga and Cornhole.
I'm fine with them. I don't think most people take advantage.
Oh, interesting. Multi-dress changes.
Give it to me all day. All day.
Chair covers.
Oh, no. Get rid of the chair covers. Get rid of the chairs that need chair covers.
Pets at or in weddings.
All day, every day. But do not ask some family member to take care of your dog. Bring in a pet concierge.
Speeches. I feel like you want to say fuck it, but you can't.
Oh, yeah. I think that it is I'm keeping speeches. They need to be strategically placed throughout the day. They need to be 500 words or less. And you need to pick people who can speak in public. And if that's not your best man and maid of honor, maybe that's okay. Maybe that is a conversation we can all have with ourselves.
I love it. Okay, this is older trend in weddings, but mason jars.
Nah, pass. Right in the bucket.
Disco balls?
Oh, all day. I am a New Year's Eve wedding girl. Like, oh my God, give me all the confetti, give me all the disco balls.
So holiday weddings you're cool with, or just New Year's?
So I listened to the vendor table pod, and I don't know if anyone's ever told Michael this, but he can decline a July 4th wedding. He doesn't have to go. That is the beauty. That is the beauty of the RSVP. Is if you don't want to go to the 4th of July wedding out of town because you love your neighborhood parade with the drill teams and the fire trucks and the children, you can just decline.
I feel like shots fired. Michael, your retort.
Oh, if you ever notice,
that's true. If someone gets an invite, or if a vendor doesn't want to do it, they should just say up front.
You could say, like, this is Michael is not the first person I have heard this from, and you can say no. You can say no to any invitation, and you don't have to give a reason. And frankly, you're saving that person hundreds of dollars. So, like if you always go somewhere, for Labor Day or whatever, like, it's fine. Just say no. Just decline. It's okay.
Right, last one, because it's starting to trend again, because everything comes back around. Large wedding cakes.
Oh, yes. You're
excited for it?
To me, it is a way to incorporate a piece of art into your reception. That's my opinion. So yeah,
All right.
I have one.
Is it okay to have the secret Costco cake sheet in the back?
Absolutely. And it should be, because if it falls, you want the big art cake to be fake. Because if it falls over, it won't be in 11 million pieces.
You're screwed.
So that's fine. Yeah, so screwed when that cake falls over. I have a fuck a bucket for you, but we can do it at the very end. So just tell me when you're ready.
Oh, no, I went now.
AI generated wedding inspiration photos.
That's a thing?
Oh my.
So just did one on vows and speeches with Brian Franklin and talked about AI using like ChatGPT, for example, to help write your vows. There's AI generated wedding photos?
I will send you some on Instagram. And if any of the listeners DM me on Instagram, eventually when I see that category far in the side that says requests, I will DM you what I am talking about. At first I was like, who would plan an event like it's like a table in the water and you're sitting on a stool? And then I realized it was AI and it wasn't real. And I was like, this is not good for me in my life. This is not good. It's bad enough that like we have to deal with every single image out there is basically luxury. Not the majority of images out there are luxury and there's no price tags attached. And so
Absolutely.
No one understands what they're asking for. But now you're literally making shit up that has never actually been executed. And I'm supposed to deal with that? Oh, okay. Sorry.
I am so fascinated by this now. And it actually goes into my last question. Well, last question before the celebrity one. But what Pinterest trend do you wish would just die?
I'm going to steal one from vendor table again. The bouquets around the face photo.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
now,
cheesy.
If
no
it's
offense
around
if you like it.
If it's around a dog, I'm here for it. But around a human face, I don't understand what we're doing. But if you like it, do it. I am not here to yuck people's yum. I'm really not. But that is not for me, and I do not fully understand it.
Yeah, I kind of co-sign on it. Sorry if you are a fan of it. Like, again, I'm with her, but it just looks so dated and cheesy to me.
Yeah, there's something about it that just screams 80s, and I'm not quite sure why.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, last question. You made it to the end. What is your all-time favorite celebrity and or royal wedding?
I thought about this a lot because you are a pop culture queen and I am not by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm also not a super fashion person. But the one I kept coming back to time and time again was Gwen Stefani's Christian Dior pink dip dye dress when she married Gavin Rossdale 100 years ago. Like that is like my first clear like wedding industry memory of like, I'm taking note of this and it has stuck with me all these years. I think that the concept of that dip dye was incredible.
I love it. It's one of my all-time favorites. And it's crazy because like, obviously we talk all the time about how pop culture influences. And I'm so glad you brought Father of the Bride earlier because I did not associate that home wedding really influencing and shaping, but it's so true. But the pink dip dye didn't totally catch fire. Everyone was fascinated by it and loved it. But I don't think they had like the cojones to do it just yet. It took a few years. But once they did, people started wearing full-on pink dresses and doing the dip dye. I forget the name of the bridal company, the wedding dress company. I'm a fan of their work, but a lot of their dresses are white with dip dye ombre colors and stuff like that. And it's awesome. It's so rad. And I encourage that, with brides that want to wear it. But the Gwen Stefani one for sure made an impact.
We did dip dye on other things. We did dip dye on paper for a really long time after that as well.
Ombre cakes.
Yes, the ombre cakes, the ombre everything, the ombre bridesmaid dresses, like shading across the spectrum. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm here for ombre all day. I love ombre.
Give me all the colors, please. Give me all the colors or none of the colors. Either is fine.
Which, we just had none of the colors, but now all the colors is trending for 25, 26 weddings.
I'm fine with that. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Janice, thank you so much for being with us and for so much incredible advice that is going to help us make incredible decisions, whether we do a home wedding or decide to go elsewhere. But Really, really thankful for you to share all of your knowledge with us. And how can we get more information on you and your website and book?
Thank you so much. This has been the pleasure of the year for me, for sure. The ebook can be found at yourweddingathome.com. I re-released it. I made a new edition just for you and your listeners. It is brand new. It is live now. And there is an accompanying website, blog, so you can check out all the visuals there. And you can find me on Instagram, Your Wedding at Home. Also, my planning company is Bellwether Events. I'm not going to spell that out because it's painful. You can just check the show notes.
Everything will be in the description, the show notes, and hit us up on Instagram.
Thank you, Leah.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode.